In this video, we've got Jordan Peterson battling up against Muhammad Hijab, and Muhammad tries to disprove the Trinity and say all of that was absolute insanity. When Jordan Peterson was 13 years old, he knew exactly what he was doing. So let's find out and hear it now.
And I even read some of your peer-reviewed work, because when I was going to speak to you, then I said, you know what, I'm going to do my homework. Yeah. So I read everything. One of the things that you said one time in The Maps of Meaning, you started off the book by saying, when you were a young lad, I don't know how young you were, you said that you found the doctrines of Christianity incomprehensible and absurd, yeah? And you also said that you found you had some kind of issue with Christianity because of the Genesis narrative and how incongruent it was with scientific narratives. You went to a pastor, you said, or a church cleric or something, and then you left the church. Now, I've got a question. Do you still have the same position, or have you changed your position?
Well, I've changed my position a lot. I was only 13 then, you know, and I was caught up in the battle, you know, insofar it was manifested in me when I was 13. I was caught in the battle between Enlightenment rationality and traditional narrative belief.
Yes.
I had no idea how to reconcile those two things.
Do you feel like you can do that now?
I'm doing my best to reconcile.
So let me be
yes,
more
and I think, well, I certainly can do it a lot more than I did when I was 13.
Let me give you an example, right? This point, when you were 13, I think you were thinking straight. I'll be sorry to be very straight.
It's hard to believe that someone is disagreeable with you as you would manage that.
Because someone with an IQ of 180 or whatever you have, someone of your intelligence. When you were 13, you probably had an IQ of, I don't know, 120 or something, yeah? So you were operating like my friend over here, Ali Dawa, on his level, at the age of 13. But what I was going to say was that, you know, the reason why I think you were, because look at the Trinity, for example. Look at the schisms. Now, this goes to your specialism. The idea of three all-powerful entities, that Jesus is all-powerful, that the Father is all-powerful, the Son is all-powerful, and the Holy Spirit is all-powerful, but there's not three all-powerfuls, there's one all-powerful. You have one ultimately willing being, which is a person, which is Jesus, and then another person, which is ultimately willing, which is the Son. The Quran says about this, it says, مَا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ مِنْ وَلَدٍ وَمَا كَانَ مَعَهُ مِنْ إِلَهٍ إِذًا لَذَهَبَ كُلُّ إِلَهٍ بِمَا خَلَقَ وَلَعَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. In chapter 23, verse number 91, it says that Allah has not taken any son, and he did not have any creator with him. Had that been the case, they would have stripped one another for what they would have competed and tried to outstrip one another for power. Meaning this idea of three all-powerful persons is unintelligible, to say the least. The idea that Jesus Christ exhibits two natures. I know that there are schisms and there's differences of opinion among Christians, but the fact that you have this human nature where Jesus is walking and he sees the tree and he can't eat from the tree, he doesn't know that the tree is in season or not, or that he doesn't know when the hour is, or whatever it may be. The Quran says it very clearly. كَانَا يَأْكُلَانِ الطَّعَامِ. Him and his mum used to eat food. This proposition that they're limited and unlimited at the same time is unintelligible. It's a contradiction. It's an affront to logic. This will cause you cognitive dissonance. Because if you want to be a rational actor, and you want to be...
that's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a rational actor.
But you do when you do your scientific experiments.
That's true.
So why do you separate the two things?
Because rationality should be subordinated to something above it. And I'm trying to subordinate myself to that.
The Bible is a root of wisdom, inspiration, and spiritual...
And so my reaction to what you're saying is that this isn't an insult. I'm telling you what my reaction is.
Please say
it's not even a criticism.
Of course.
I find that discussion, as soon as it started, I found that less interesting than what we were doing before. It was harder for me to focus on. And I think the reason for that is that it transforms to some, and I'm not saying this isn't necessary at sometimes, but it transforms the transcendent into something like an intellectual and propositional discussion. And so in some sense, we're debating perhaps not the fine points of theology, because they're more like the blunt points of theology.
I understand.
But there's something about that isn't what I want to do with you.
Yes.
You know, and it isn't that it's not necessary. So let me flip it around to some degree. So one of the things I'm very curious about is, obviously, the figure of Christ is contentious.
Yes.
And so the Jews don't know what to make of Christ in some fundamental sense, because he seems like the last he seems like a continuation of the prophetic tradition in some real sense. Plus, he was Jewish, so that makes things complicated. And then, of course, the Christians put the figure of Christ as central in some real sense, but that begs the question of the relationship between Christ and God. And then in the Muslim community, Christ is also a central figure. And so I'm curious about that. And we could say we have doctrinal differences about what constitutes that centrality. It's like, fair enough. And I would also not say that I understand what that centrality means. So one of the ways I would understand that, let's say, is that in the Western tradition, and I don't know to what degree this is true in the Muslim tradition, one of the attributes of what Christ is psychologically is the logos. And so if we're engaged in dialogue, which is dual logos, then we're embodying the spirit of something like mutual enlightenment. And that's then the presence of that spirit in the genuine confines of temporal reality, right? It's something like the infinite descending to the finite to illuminate us. And to the degree that we can have a dialogue in good faith, which is also a religious notion, then we can engage in that process of dialogos, and that transforms and redeems us. And then when I say, well, do I believe that? I say, well, it isn't just that I believe it as a proposition. It's that I can tell when it's happening. And so can you, I think. It's like, you're going to see that this conversation will ebb and flow, and some of the time it's going to grip you. You think, we're at the heart of the matter, and sometimes your attention's going to wander. And your attention's going to wander when we're off the path. And so I would say that to the degree that you and I are communicating, this is a religious way of thinking about it, is that we're doing our best to embody the spirit of the logos. And if that's working, then we're making progress. And I know that in the Western tradition, that's part of what has been conceptualized as the fundamental attribute of the figure of Christ. And I know that Christ is central in the Muslim tradition. And so one of the things I would want to know is not how we differ doctrinally, because I don't even think I'm qualified to debate you on that case.
We've got the guy here.
Well, Jonathan might have some things to say, but what I would like to know instead is, why do you believe that the figure of Christ is central in some sense, or maybe I've got that wrong, although I don't think so. Why do you think the figure of Christ is central both to the Muslim faith and the Christian faith? And what do you think that says about what we share in common? Because I really don't understand that. It's a mystery to me.
Okay, so Jesus Christ, if secular historians will look at him and differ on his existence or not. The majority, to be fair, do believe he existed, right? Even secular historians, atheists and agnostics and whatever it may be, right?
It's the simplest explanation.
Yeah, it's a simple, of course, yeah. So I believe that, first of all, Jesus Christ existed, which in the modern age is worth noting, right? Muslims are the only other major world religion who believe in Jesus Christ as the Messiah, as the prophet.
Right,
he had the virgin
and
birth.
this is a strange thing, so we should definitely be trying to sort that out.
Yeah, we should definitely try and sort that out, because as I've always said, every other religion, including Islam, they acknowledge and believe that Christ existed. Yes, there's somebody that called Christ, he existed. But however, this is where it becomes different. They don't believe that he's the Son of God. They don't believe, that the Trinity, just like Muhammad Hijab has tried to mention. But our issue as Christians, or just as human beings, we don't need to understand how, because they're always super concerned about, well, how can it be, three at once? How can the Trinity exist? Well, it's not really any of your business, to be simple about it. Why? Because if today, let's just say, for example, you was God and you created the world, you decide what you put inside the tiny little humans, people. We're tiny in the eyes of God. You decide what you instill in their head. You decide the bandwidth, the capabilities, how many gigabytes, terabytes they have processing power. So you can cap it. Okay, yep, you can reach till this point. You will never understand anything beyond this, because we're not even in the same realm. So this level of intellect or knowledge or wisdom, I can't even download it in this flesh because it's too tiny. You're finite. I'm infinite. It doesn't even make sense. So it's as clear as day. We will never understand it. So rather than worry about, do I understand it or not? worry about, is it true or not? How much evidence do I have that keeps pointing me to this direction, that that might be true, that this way, no, right, no, don't go right, go left. Left is... How many of those instances do you need in your life before you finally give in and you remove that stubbornness that's over, that veil that's over your eyes, and you say, you know what, maybe Christ does exist. Maybe this stuff is not fairy tale, it's not a Disney movie that I'm watching, but maybe it's actually true. Maybe all of these people who are discovering, you know what, they use the Bible. Where did I even hear it from? They use the Bible as a map. Archaeologists, I believe, they use the Bible as a map to try and discover, okay, all right, well, the Bible said this, so let's try and dig here and see if we'll find anything. Lo and behold, we found something. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button. Comment in the comment section down below what other video, debate-wise, you want me to check out in regards to Christianity, Islam. You know, just let me know. Christianity related, obviously. And I'll catch you guys on the next